Talk Dogs. My name is Jill, and I'm going to be hosting a conversation about pet insurance today. But first, it's probably a good time to introduce our panel, as we have some new faces on our panel, and we also have a dog on our panel.
My name is Kayla, and I have one dog, and his name is Sam, and he's a 3-year-old Boxador.
My name is Alex, and I have a also 3-year-old Terrier mix.
My name is Melissa. I have 3 dogs, Gertie, Jack, and Bruiser.
My name's Janice, and I have a 7-year-old blue heeler.
I'm Stacy, and I have 3 dogs. I have a 7-year-old Shepherd, I have an 8-year-old Lab, and I have an 8-year-old bear wolf looking thing.
So you've met Buddy. Buddy is a big old Shepherd mix, and I also have another dog, Hercules, who's in the corner over there, who is a Lab Weimaraner mix. When we first adopted Buddy, we brought him to his first well check at the vet. The conversation of pet insurance came up, and we brought home a whole folder full of potential companies, types of insurance, what certain companies cover, what they don't, types of deductibles. And we got home and we read through everything, and we didn't know what to do because it can be costly. So eventually we made the decision. We did not get pet insurance, although we could get it at any time. Since both of our dogs are adopted and rescued, they're mutts, and they probably or hopefully don't have the predisposition to certain ailments that a purebred might have. Does anybody not have pet insurance here?
I do not have pet insurance.
I do not have pet insurance.
I do.
I do.
I also have pet insurance.
Melissa, why don't you have pet insurance?
The same reasons as you at the time. Back then, they didn't really push the insurance that you needed it so much. I mean,
It is more of, I think
Jack
it's
is
becoming more popular now.
my Chihuahua,
Definitely.
he's 13.
Mm-hmm.
Bruiser, he's 12. So it wasn't, I don't know, I feel like now everybody's
And you've had Gertie for how long now?
3. She's 3. She
Okay.
just turned 3.
What
But
is
I've
it?
had her for 2 years.
You have had her for 2 years?
Because my sister had her for a year.
I love the story of Gertie.
Oh yeah, they thought she was an Australian Shepherd.
That'll actually
She
be
clearly
no
is a pit.
hair.
Well, she's a pit bull. I would like to look into definitely getting pet insurance now. She's 3.
Yeah.
She's young.
Janice?
My first dog I had in high school, so no one really did insurance. I didn't. I also had a horse, and I didn't insure my horse. I haven't insured my dog, but she's a mutt, and she's really healthy, and she's 7 going on 8, and she's doing fine. But if something cropped up, I would get insurance. And
So that's actually the tricky thing about insurance
That's
is
what I was
that
gonna
like
ask.
once
That's what I was
something
gonna
comes
say,
up, you
too.
can't necessarily get it. I mean, you can still try to, but once something is already pre-existing, it won't necessarily cover that. So for example, with my health insurance for my 3, I didn't have insurance for a while. And then Enzo got really hurt actually out on a hike at one point, and $5,000 later, he was still young enough that I was like, okay, so I should probably look into this now, because the injury wasn't like a pre-existing condition, it was just like a one-off, so it didn't hurt us in terms of being eligible. But if he had something that was a continuous thing health-wise, we would not have been eligible for insurance. So for example with Cora, right? So when I adopted her, I got her 2.5 years ago. So she wasn't having seizures at that point. She only started having seizures in 2017. So because of that, I mean, everything that has cost us thousands of dollars so far, just doing an MRI, I mean, we did everything to figure out if it was a tumor, that has all been covered now. And now also her monthly medicine, one of her 2 medicines is just under $600 a month, which I almost had a heart attack when I got to the pharmacy to pick it up. It is covered. So her monthly medicine is now covered because it wasn't
Because of
pre-existing. It started just last
And
year.
for me, my situation, that information alone, we have insurance, but
Yeah.
that information alone is enough for me to
Oh yes,
keep it.
definitely.
Because how can you, it's so much easier to
Yeah.
financially plan for whatever
The
it
monthly,
costs is per
right.
month, knowing that all of those things are covered.
There's different things that even though a lot of stuff for her is covered now, things like a second opinion visit, that's actually not covered. So I had to go have a full, which was fairly costly, but it ended up being, worth it.
My dog growing up, he was a mixed breed dog and he developed degenerative myelopathy, which is really uncommon in mixed breed dogs. And that's something that like insurance would have covered all of the treatment related to that if that had been a thing at the time that people did, but it just wasn't.
So you know when you go to apply for insurance or policy, they will contact your vet and
ask that, Jill,
scour
if they
through
do.
the medical records, try to find any possible condition that they don't have to cover. So you're right. I mean, if insurance is the thing that you want to do it early.
Like if your pal's young enough, like because Gertie's
Yeah.
only 3.
3.
It's a good option for, I mean, and Lily, she doesn't have anything at the
She
moment.
just has that little bump, but the vet's already looked at it.
Yeah, and if it's written in as, you know, as a lipoma, which is just a fatty tumor, it doesn't show any cancerous
Could
cells.
you do a lot of this
but-
online to apply for the insurance?
Yes.
So then
Yeah.
they contact your vet,
Exactly.
and then it goes.
And they
from
get
there.
their records.
Yeah.
Alex, what about you?
So I actually got pet insurance. I had looked into it before when I just got Kuza. Kind of said the same thing, like, oh, we don't really need it. He's still really young. And then he developed this sock eating habit. And eating socks is really bad.
We talked about this last week.
Yeah.
Really bad for dogs, and they can end up with surgery. And so I think one day when I thought he had eaten the sock, he had it. But I thought he had eaten the sock, and then I was thinking of like the $6,000, $10,000 surgery that he was gonna need. And then I was like, this is not worth the panic. And luckily he didn't end up eating sock, he didn't end up needing surgery. But after that I was like, okay, time for some insurance. And we even did the math, like people ask me all the time, like at work too, like,
Right.
should we get pet insurance? And I was like, even if it's $50 a month, like that's over a year, it's $600. Think of like how much a surgery is.
Exactly.
Like $6,000, you have to save 10 years for that.
And you can use it for even the minor stuff too. Just anything you should put in
Anything.
because it takes away from your deductible.
Well, that's
So-
what I actually wanted to mention, because different companies
Yeah.
offer different deductible
Right.
plans
Right.
and what they cover, how much coverage you want. But one thing that my vet strongly recommended is make sure that your deductible is cumulative through the year, not by
Per
claim
claim,
basis, because
yeah.
you will end up spending so much money
Yeah.
if you don't meet your deductible
Each
per
year.
claim
Yeah,
or
right.
per injury
Oh.
or whatever. So that's a very important thing to check with your insurance company
Yeah.
to figure that out. And also, how much do you want to have covered? Now, some people want to cover all of their exams, everything. Some people want to cover just the major things, like surgery, x-ray. So these are all things and obviously the more you cover, the more expensive, but it's something to think about. Like, what kind of coverage do you have?
I think mine is a $250 deductible with 80% coverage. It also doesn't include annuals, so anything preventative, so like an annual physical, is not covered. I know some other plans have like the prophylactic covered, but mine doesn't cover that.
So I also have a $250 deductible. I'm pretty sure we have 90% reimbursement, but I remember going back and forth between 80 and 90 because I think they do, like you can get lower than that too, but
Right.
80 and 90 are good numbers for reimbursement.
Yeah.
And so our insurance just re-upped in January and we haven't made a claim since it went up, since it renewed. But every year they've had it so far, we've gone above and beyond the deductible, even just like with, I think one single emergency vet visit each year is like, that takes you above your deductible and then you start getting reimbursements for anything after that, even like ear meds or eye meds or any little thing. So for us, it's been worth it so far. But we haven't gone since it renewed, so we'll see how this year goes.
And you can join at any time, like there's no like
Yep.
period that you have to.
I will admit I don't know a lot of the figures off the top of my head because we signed up so long ago. But I know that when I did sign up, I found a website where I could compare all of the different types. I mean, and then you can throw in a couple of outliers that aren't on that. But which was so helpful because, like they're saying, I mean, it's really there's so many different
out there
options.
now, yeah.
And having I have 3 different breeds of dogs, so it was really important for me to find one that was going to cover things like labs. They tend to have hip dysplasia or whatever.
ACL,
So
yeah.
it's definitely it's really worth it too, especially since it is a monthly charge. If you don't ever need it, that's great, but you might need it.
But yeah,
Um,
at one time.
right. So it's definitely it's really worth it to compare. That's for sure.
So if you have insurance, every year you renew it, can you change your coverage?
Yes.
Yes.
Year to year.
Anytime.
You
But
can
just as
change
long
it
as you
anytime.
have it, so then if your dog gets a condition, now you can cater your insurance to handle that.
Yes, you can change it like if something happened and you wanted to get a bigger reimbursement, you can change it at any time for the following month.
And once you have insurance, there's no way that the company can deny you the
If
following
something
year,
happened.
correct? Once you're in, you're in, and
You're in.
It's not like you get one claim and then they
Well,
keep
as
it.
long as the thing that you're submitting a claim for is not pre-existing.
Right.
correct.
So had
Right.
Cora's right, so then nothing would have been covered, but
Right, but everything going forward is because it wasn't pre-existing.
I know that one thing, and you also mentioned hip dysplasia. Hip dysplasia, I think they require you to like come in at under a certain age before
Yeah,
they'll
that's a
cover
good
it.
point.
And I think it can also be, so there's typically a 2-week waiting period, but I think the hip dysplasia is longer, like as long as like 6 months or even a year possibly. I've seen it on other insurances that specific condition can be a longer waiting period.
So if you suspect that your dog might get hip
Yeah.
dysplasia, get pet insurance
Yeah.
early.
Yeah.
Buddy has left the conversation. Sorry, he got bored.
I know, Stacey, you mentioned that you saw a website that you can compare them because you can get different prices. There's lots of ways to play around with it so that you can kind of get the monthly price that works for you. I know in some states it's also cheaper than in others. I think Massachusetts for vet care is like a fairly expensive state.
Different plans may also cover different things. So I know that my plan doesn't cover prophylactic, as I mentioned, but also it doesn't cover the initial vet visit. So I've taken my dog to the ER, and he had a scratch on his eye, and they kind of had to do that initial vet exam to say like what's wrong, what did they have to do as a follow-up. That initial vet exam cost us probably about $150, and that's actually not covered. But then anything further than that, so like eye drops that we had to get him, they had some like eye tests to make sure that like the cornea wasn't scratched, was also covered. So that initial vet fee was not covered for us, but then everything else beyond that was. I think that probably varies depending on
Like any follow-up exams or
Yeah.
treatments that are needed.
Yeah, so it probably depends on the plan that you guys are on, but that's also something to watch out for.
Some insurance plans do offer like the wellness option, which covers, like for example, if you got a brand new puppy and you started insurance right away, some plans will offer like additional things that you can add on to the month to cover like a spay and neuter cost or to cover preventative costs and things like that. But it depends on the plan that you end up choosing.
For Oscar's surgery, so my lab, he ended up having, they randomly found a tumor next to his heart. It was a thymoma tumor, which was very good news since the other option was lymphoma, so we were excited. But that, other than the, like you were saying, the intake was not, but then everything else was covered. So so that ended up being really beneficial because it was like a $7,000 surgery.
Wow.
So that's good news, you know.
Very good.
Yeah.
I'm thinking we need to get pet insurance.
I know.
It's so costly.
I know.
One of the things that made me think to get it too beyond the sock thing is that Kuza is out running all
Yeah,
the
that's
time.
true.
Very
And,
true.
I mean, he's kind of reckless, so he like runs and doesn't look where he's going and things like that. And I think when you're running free in the woods, there's like a higher chance of tripping over something, potentially like scratching on something. I don't know. I mean, Enzo.
My poor dog.
Where he was like running through the woods and he just like got a scratch on his belly randomly.
Yeah.
So yeah, anything
Which
happened.
wasn't a scratch. It ended up being this like huge tear in his chest. I was like hugging him and I was like, why are you wet? Yeah, that wasn't good.
There was a log on the
Oh,
outside of the
no.
farm,
Yep.
and he was like, and I was like, go.
Check him out. You're like,
I
"Come
called
here."
Alex. I was like, Alex, I'm like, oh, he ran into a tree.
He was fine. No ER visit needed.
He has a pretty hard time.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he's a
Yeah.
tough dog.
He's a tough guy.
He's a scrappy guy.
Yeah.
He's a cute one.
Um,
So how did you, all three of your dogs have different coverage? How did you pick your coverages?
If I'm remembering correctly, Oscar was only allowed to have a certain amount covered because he's a lab, and so there are things that they like. There are actually in a lot of different insurance companies. There are. So sorry, buddy. So sorry. Much better.
He's like, guys.
Please come join us. Come join us.
Sorry about that.
I know, just so nice. Apologies. Some things with different insurance companies, there are certain ailments that are not going to be covered. So for a lot of, there are actually quite a few insurance companies that won't cover hip dysplasia. I did have a little bit of choosing option in terms of price and stuff, but it was also sort of chosen for me based on the breed. Cora is supposedly a shepherd, but I mean, I'm convinced she's something else.
That's the beauty of rescue.
I know.
You never know what you're
It's a
getting.
guessing game. It can be a guessing game. In terms of, the breeds anyway, not personality.
So thank you for taking the time to tune in and watch. Pet insurance is obviously something that each and every one of us has been offered or thought about when you take your dog to the vet. We all have varying opinions, and we're hoping that maybe you learned a little something about it to help make a better, more informed decision if you're going to go for insurance, or if you already have it, you're like, yay, I already have it. So it's perfect.
None of these issues that we've talked about are things that can be just solved in a 15-minute episode. So if you have questions or comments or anything like that, feel free to interact a little bit more on this topic and possibly even do a part 2 down the line. So for next week's episode, we're actually going to be talking about a super fun topic. We're going to tell a little bit about how and why we became dog moms, and share a little bit of our background story with how we fell in love with our fur babies.
And here they come.
So down the line, we're going to have a few different style episodes. We'll do Ask the Professional, where we might have a veterinarian that we can talk to, dog walkers, things like that. And then we're also going to do a dog dad episode, which I think will be really fun to watch. So I'm looking forward to that one.
So don't forget to like us on Facebook so you can get all our videos come up on your feed, and you can also subscribe to our channel on YouTube and you'll get updates there as well. And we hope to see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goddamn
That
hilarious.
was okay. I mean, I know we all said stuff.
Guys, you'd be amazed at what I can chop up. I'm gonna
Great.
tell you right now.
Okay. Thanks again for joining in for this latest episode of Let's Talk. Fuck that.
Start again. Oh, fuck that. Okay. What else? Anything else?
Oh shoot, I was doing the serial killer face.
It is hilarious.
You get tapped like you're like, you're up.
Nobody knows how to talk.
Exactly.
And Melissa?
No.
Oh, is that okay?
Yes, that was good. That was funny.
You put on the spot. It's your turn.
Do you want me to?
Okay. Okay.
She's gonna start laughing because you're
Good.
Okay.
Do you want me to smack you?
No. Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
So, are we done talking about insurance? Okay. Okay. So thank you for tuning in again.
I was scratching.
Where are you scratching?
Janice or Melissa?
Melissa?
Melissa!
Okay, Melissa now.
I will literally have to have cards in front of me.
That's okay.
I can't see those.
Okay, so sorry, you said,
Say, and Kayla.
So,
Okay, now what? I can't say that. Stop. Wait, okay, so are you ready to keep rolling? And action.
well, we don't know where yet.
Okay,
I'm
cut.
really interested in you.
What will we get into a new?
I actually want to, at some point, I do want to.
No, don't do it. Get back here. Cookie. What's happening?
One thing, just this is not part of the
Oh.
episode. Cut. Yeah.
You alright?
Yeah.
It's almost done.
You were
I know.
Gets me every time. Gets me every time.
Yeah.
Does anybody else not have pet
Oh, okay,
insurance?
wait, I'm not. Just, okay, give us